Ace Video will take a closer look at the fascinating patterns of nature, shapes, structures, and design that quietly reveal the presence of mathematics all around us. From a spiral of a seashell to a century of a flower, numbers of patterns are woven into the world we see every day. We become more conscious and curious about these collections. We begin to see the nature not just as beautiful, but also deeply mathematical and full of wonder.
Hi everyone, my name is Paul Reynard Endeza, a BS from second year student, and today we are exploring the fascinating world of patterns in nature and how they are connected to the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. So from the waves of the ocean, from the patterns of a sunflower, from the stripes of the zebra, the bubbles from the water, and the lightning from the thunder, mathematics is really within our nature. But today, we will be focusing on one patterns in nature, and that is all about cracks. When mud or land dries out, it shrinks. So that shrinkage causes stress to build up in the surface layer. To relieve that stress, cracks begin to form, and not just randomly. They usually branch into Y-shaped junctions at 120 angles, creating a polygonal pattern. This is nature's way of efficiently distributing tension. Our next example under cracks are dried leaves. As the moisture leaves the leaf tissue, the surface contracts unevenly, forming fine crack patterns. These follow the natural vein structure, showing how even destruction has its own form of order. While cracks don't directly follow the Fibonacci sequence like spirals do, they still reflect nature's tendency toward efficiency and balance, just in a more fractured way. Whether it's a sunflower or a shattered leaf, nature follows patterns that are deeply mathematical. So the next time you see cracks on dried land or mud or dried leaves, always remember, there is a hidden math beneath the surface. Thus, nature really speaks the language of patterns.
Tessellations. Tessellations are repeating geometric shapes that cover a plane without gaps or overlaps. And a perfect example for this are the turtle shells. And turtle shells are made up of polygonal plates that tessellate and giving protection and strength. Second example are fish scales, and fish scales are overlapping scales that tessellate to form a protective, flexible covering. So cellular structures are patterns formed by the arrangement of cells in living organisms. So an example for this are the honeycomb of the bees, and bees build wax cells in perfect hexagons because hexagons fit together without gaps and use the least material and store the maximum honey. So another example is the plant cells, which can be seen under a microscope. So plant tissues like onion skin show tightly packed polygonal cells, and these structures help them stay firm and maximize coverage.
Patterns in nature can be seen in bubbles because they naturally form perfect spheres. This happens because a sphere uses the less amount of surface area to hold air, making the most efficient and stable shape. Soap bubbles are a good example of bubbles in nature. They are made when air gets trapped inside a thin layer of soap and water, forming a round shape. Branching in nature is a part where something spread out like branches of tree, starting from one main part and dividing into smaller parts. Lightning is a good example of branching in nature because its electric path splits into smaller branches, similar to how tree branches spread out.
Hi, so on my part, let's talk about lamination and stripes. So let's first talk about stripes. What stripes is? So stripes are the repeating or liner patterns that alternate in color, thickness, or texture. So in mathematics, they often appear as periodic functions or symmetry in geometry. So the examples of stripes in nature is, the first one would be the black and white stripes of the zebra. So this one is the first example of stripes in nature. So the second example of stripes in nature is the bonding on a certain seashells. So this one. So next as well is we also have the lamination. So lamination is a layering of thin sheets or surfaces stacked together, so often forming visible bands of layers. So in mathematics, when we relate it to structures, so it is formed by repeating layering, sometimes modeled in geometry or in fractals. So the examples of lamination in nature is the layers of rock in sedimentary cliffs, or the growths of rings in the tree trunk. So this is my example of lamination. So again, it is a layering of thin sheets or surfaces stuck together.
Symmetry pattern is a balanced design where one part of a pattern is identical to another part. For example, a butterfly, because it is a bilateral organism, which means its body and wings are essentially mirror images of each other. Next we have is waves. In mathematics, waves are natural patterns because their repeating rhythmic nature can be described by mathematical functions, such as sine functions, which capture the consistent rise and fall of a disturbance over distance and time.
Hi guys, I'm Starloni B. Sevilla Jr. I'm the one who's assigned to discuss the fractals and example. First, let's quickly talk about what fractals are. Fractals are intricate patterns that repeat at different scales, found all around us in nature. Think of snowflakes, coastline, and yes, even in fruits. So here, I have a pineapple as an example of fractals. So why pineapple is a fractals? First, check out the exterior of the pineapple. The diamond's shape segment create a beautiful hexagonal pattern. Each segment is a smaller version of the whole, which is a key feature of fractals. Oh, that's the first example of fractals. The second one is the leaf arrangement of pineapple. Now, let's take a look the leaves on top. If you observe closely, you'll notice the spiral around the center. This spiral arrangement is another example of fractal-like behavior.
My name is Bernalyn E. Ambrosio, BSRIM 1, and now we're going to explore two fascinating patterns in nature, which is spirals and branching.
The spirals are everywhere in nature, from the shape of seashells of the beautiful of sunflowers, where seeds are arranged in spirals patterns. Spirals are fundamental pattern. You can see them in vast structure of collectors and even a sorting clouds of a hurricane. Branching is another essential pattern in nature. You can see it in trees, in the flow of rivers, in this particular display of lighting, and in the intricate network of blood vessels that nourish our body.
Another pattern of nature is meanders. Meanders are snake-like curves that form when flowing water shapes the land through erosion and deposition. On the outer band, erosion cuts into the banks. On the inner band, deposition leaves sand and soil. Over time, this creates wide looping curves.
Hi, I'm Rowena Fat, a first-year college student taking a Bachelor of Science in Real Estate Management. Now, let's explore to one of the coolest patterns hiding around us. Polygons.
What is a polygon? A polygon is a 2D flat shape with straight sides, like triangle, square, a hexagon, and octagon. We use polygons everywhere, like on the exterior of buildings, the shape of the ceilings, the floor tiles, and even on every building plans. But polygons are not just man-made. Nature has them too. A dragonfly's wings use polygons for strength without extra weight. Turtle shells form hexagons as armor. Even on cactus, ribs create polygon-like sections to store water. And polygon shapes also appear in every breathtaking landscapes, such as these Bohol chocolate hills.
And that's how patterns of nature shows up in everything we see in nature and even on man-made structures.